the heart of Igbo society, where tradition and culture hold deep roots, the Osu caste system remains one of the most controversial and enduring social divides. Despite modernity and legal prohibitions, this ancient practice continues to shape relationships, marriage, and even opportunities for many Igbo people. Osu caste system, a pre-colonial tradition, classifies certain individuals as outcast, supposedly dedicated to deities and forbidden from mixing with the freeborn called Diala. Historically, they lived near shrines, were excluded from community leadership, and suffered severe discrimination. Though colonial and post-independence laws abolished the system, its shadow lingers, particularly in rural areas, where marrying or associating with an Osu can still bring social stigma. For a discussion about the Osu caste system among the Igbos of Eastern Nigeria, we are now joined by actor Joe Okechukwu. He will be touching on developments in the Nigerian movie industry, popularly called Nollywood. It's good to have you with us, Joe.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, sir. Let's just start, before we delve into Nollywood proper, what are your thoughts on Osu caste? Do you think how it has endured for so long? How are people reacting to it in terms of its acceptability, not just within the eastern region, but elsewhere? Your thoughts?
So Osu caste system is a very obnoxious practice. I have been almost regarded as the poster child for the abolition of this, yeah? And I mean, there was an incident that led me into it. It was something that happened to a young man who dated a young girl for a very long time, and then they wanted to get married, and he, after so many years of dating, and he just proposed to the girl, and they went to do their usual introduction, then before traditional marriage and all of that. After introduction, the father of the girl just suddenly came to the realization that, oh, we haven't even made any investigations, because that's the normal thing in Igboland. You want to marry anybody, they're going to have to go do some investigation. And so they went to do investigation and found out that this guy belongs to the other side. They call it the other side. So he is of the Osu bloodline. And that was the end of their relationship. And this guy went into a hunger strike for 2 weeks and almost died. They had to break through his door to get to him. That was what spurred me into action. And then when I began to research and dig deep into this, because, in my place, amongst Igbos, they always tell you, oh, that was back then, it doesn't happen anymore. It's a lie. It's still so prevalent today. I remember that back in 1956, the old Eastern Assembly abrogated this practice. Okay, so they criminalized it. In fact, you were fined or jailed for calling someone Osu. When Zeke was addressing them then, let me read you this. He said, in his address to the defunct Eastern Regional House of Assembly on March 20, 1956, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe described the Osu caste system as devilish and uncharitable. And then he said that it was wrong to brand any human being with a label of inferiority due to an accident of history. So the big question, the $1,000 question here is, what does he mean by accident of history? This was why I decided to make a movie. Because the whole of 2018, all I did from January to December was the abolition of Osu caste system, which culminated in a massive event that took place at the Palace of Agukun in Anambra State in December of that same year. So when we finished with that, I said to everyone that I am going to amplify this message of abolition with a movie that would help to psychologically orientate our people. And the only way you can psychologically orientate the people is to present the facts in the movie. So the movie that I have produced, which is now called Osu, is a product of about 10 plus years research on this matter. And that movie explicitly answers the question, why did Nnamdi Azikiwe say accident of history? You know why he did that? He said accident of history because Osu caste system stemmed from transatlantic slavery. All right? And so what happened was that our shrines back then were dreaded. There was even an incident where they said slave masters went there to capture someone who had run into that place, and the shrine struck them dead. When the people found out that this was what was happening, our people now began to run to the shrines to go and take refuge. So when they now went to take refuge, the collaborators of the slave masters realized that, we are losing all the able-bodied guys that we're supposed to catch. They started a propaganda to say that these ones are now the properties of the gods. They are now the outcasts. They are now the untouchables. They belong to the gods. That was where Osu started from. But if you want to know what the real Osu is, the real Osu, ask anybody you can think of. The real Osu were meant to live in the shrine, within the shrine, which is located inside the evil forest, and they were meant to feed from there. They were meant to die there. They were not meant to interact with anybody outside. So the ones who are now out here interacting with everybody are people who ran there to take refuge. That's why Nnamdi Azikiwe said, accident of history. So if you look at it, we are not supposed to be practicing this at all. The people we are calling Osu in our midst are actually like us. They are our own people. Yeah. So that's what this movie explains. If you watch the movie, we went deep down into the history. By the time you start the movie, the first 15 minutes or so of the movie explains everything to you in black and white.
All right,
so
before we delve into the details of the movie, I'd like to know what you think Nollywood films, how they've portrayed this Osu caste, and what role they have to play, especially in shaping public perception.
Well, so Nollywood hasn't even done much on Osu caste. All we see is just videos on social media. You saw the one that happened some weeks ago. I think it was Tunde Ednot or so. He published a video of a girl who was rolling on the floor trying to kill herself. That, look, I was supposed to get married in January, and my boyfriend just found out that I'm Osu, and he said he's not marrying again. His people say he cannot marry me. We just see videos like that all over the place. But Nollywood has not really paid attention to this topic. And that's why I decided I was going to make a movie, not just a movie, but a very big movie, a big budget movie. Cost a whole lot of money to make the movie, but I was happy that I did it. You know why I made it? Because this is a very sensitive story. It's not a story you just delve into, So when I finished with the script, I first of all reached out to my uncle and father, Peter Dochie, because he's going to be in the movie. But I first said, I'm going to send it to him. I sent it to him and I said, Daddy, you are a custodian of the Igbo culture. What do you think about this? I'm not telling anybody I want to make a movie until you have approved that this is okay. It took him about a whole week or more to read it. And when he was done, I said it before, he called me and he said to me, congratulations, congratulations, up to 5 times, but meaning we have got the story
yeah, sorry
right.
to button. Are you saying there have not been Nollywood movies portraying this Osu caste?
If there has been maybe 1 or maybe 2, but not as much as there should be. There was one that was started one time, it ended midway. There's another one that started as a TV series, it just ended that way. So we are not paying attention, owing to the level of carnage that this has caused. I mean, this thing contributes to the largest amount of suicide cases amongst Igbos up until this day. This thing is a cankerworm. If you want to get married to me now, even if you're Yoruba, you're whatever, you want to marry me, if you're an Igbo person, sorry, you want to get married to me, my people will say, let's go and do investigation. Any Igbo person who wants to get married today, they must go and do investigation. You know why? Because this is what causes it. This is because of Osu that they are doing investigation. They are not investigating anything. They want to know whether you belong to that bloodline or you belong to this or that bloodline.
All right, if I might come in, because from what you've said so far, between the 1950s and up to now,
yes,
there seems to be a lack of enlightenment regarding, the evils of Osu, the shortcomings of Osu. But one would have expected that a revered personality like Nnamdi Azikiwe has said what he said, and unfortunately people haven't bought into, that rhetoric about the shortcomings of the Osu caste system. So why has it prevailed all that long? Time immemorial, and we're still having this issue. If you hadn't come out, you said that just a few movies were dedicated to this, that means obviously there's a lack of enlightenment.
Yeah.
From within the East itself about the evils of this scenario.
Okay, so just like, I'm sure you must have heard where it is said that you cannot legislate emotions, right? You can't also legislate psychological decisions. The only way you deal with psychological decision is to use psychology to also roll things back. That's why Nnamdi Azikiwe said what he said, a very revered personality. We were supposed to have evolved along the sides of his statement or his declaration, and even the declaration of the old Eastern Assembly. But we evolved in the opposite direction because a lacuna was left there.
Sorry, and there's a legislation towards this that
yes,
it's not right.
It is not right. Since 1956. But you see, we left that vacuum there, and that vacuum now led us in the wrong direction. So what we're doing now is that thing that led to that vacuum, which was orientation, psychological orientation, is what I and a few other people are now trying to bring back into the foray so that we can start orientating our people. I carried out an Osu abolition in Anambra State. Okay, it was so well attended. The media was there, everything happened. And immediately after that, about 70 communities in Igboland that never wanted to talk about it now went on and decided to abolish. But you see, after the abolition ceremony and exercises, the people need to also be disabused of the thought that when I marry an Osu person, I am going to have misfortune. When I marry an Osu, this one will happen to me, that will happen to me. And I keep asking them, how is it that you, an Igbo person, you will date Osu, you will sleep with Osu, nothing will happen to you, but when it comes to marriage, things will happen. Then what happens to those Osu people who go to marry Yoruba and they marry Edo, marry Hausa? No misfortune comes to them. In fact, they prosper even the more. But it's only when you marry an Igbo person that... So it's a psychological a scar that we must treat and take care of. That's why I decided that I'm not just going to be there doing activism and doing Osu abolition. No, we have to use a movie. And after this movie is released, we also have to use so many other media content to actually get to our people psychologically.
But apparently this is a deeply rooted issue, and you as a single person cannot, change the whole narrative and all of that. What do you think the role of collaboration is, and especially sensitizing people and helping them to understand better how this should be abolished?
Okay, so what we are doing, what we are doing is just to work with the governors, because the traditional stool now is under the government, different state government. So we're working with the governors. There was even one we did one time, we reached out to the Obi of Onitsha, so who is the head of the Council of Chiefs in our place. So we want to make all this connection. By the time this movie is being released now, we're going to get all the governors of the Southeast together. We're going to work with all of them to start coming up with legislations. Eastern Assembly did it before. Now we have different states. Let them now invoke that and let them reenact that stuff that was done then and then start the process again. So while they are doing their own legislatively, we'll be doing our own psychologically, and different people will begin to play different roles. I can't do it alone. We have to get together to make it happen.
Joe Okechukwu, actor, would like to thank you and wish you the best of luck in your endeavor to, create a more positive scene on this topic. It's good to have you with us.